Hey, welcome to this week's episode of Hollow Weekly. So the main gist is this week's episode we're going to talk about sympathy for the devil, talking about villains that, how would you describe it? Villains that you feel sorry for, villains that you don't think deserved what they got, like you see where they're coming from. All right, so for my number one, I picked villains who in some way went down the path they did because of love. Mm-hmm. And I know I said I ruled out Dracula, but now that we're talking about it, like right. At least in Coppola's Dracula, the fact that he goes out to war, he comes back, and like his love's gone, he's just like tormented for all those years.
Oh, totally, right.
And then so I was thinking of that, but then I was also thinking about Karloff's Mummy, where he gets buried alive.
He's in my final four.
Is he really?
Yes.
Oh, see, I knew we were going to have... But the fact that since he was just trying to resurrect his love, they were like, no, you can't do that.
Right.
So you're buried alive.
Right.
And then when he comes back many years later, he's like, all right, where's she at?
Right.
I'm hook her up.
He's in my final four, and he influenced my number one.
Oh, shit. So I would say The Mummy is probably number one. He's just like trying to get the love of his life back.
Right.
And all like the self-righteous people were there were like, what the fuck are you doing?
Right.
Like, we're going to tell you why you're wrong. And then getting buried alive is never, like, that makes me like hyperventilate, like thinking about them. Like, oh my God. Like, I couldn't watch, I couldn't watch Buried with Ryan Reynolds like the whole time. I was like,
oh yeah. The Vanishing, like, unnerved to the crap. The original one, the remakes it.
So I just felt bad. I'm like, he just wanted, how do you say it? Like a Nux and a Moon? Is that her name?
What?
His love is.
Oh, I know.
I just remember how they said it in Brandon Fraser's The Mummy, so I just say a bunch of like
I've never seen
words and hope it's the right name.
Really?
So I think The Mummy.
That's a great choice.
Would be my choice.
I was totally but that hits like one of the criteria that I had was, first of all, it's amazing director and amazing actor. Mm-hmm. Who's going to make you feel sympathetic, and to be able to act with like in that circumstance, like with so little to work with, right? Like, mm-hmm. You're in shadow, or you're covered, or you're like, I mean, it's just crazy that to me that to be able to do that. And he really sold that sympathy just because he's an amazingly gifted actor.
It's all in his eyes too.
Right.
It's just,
right.
Like, you just see him like, he's just like, all right.
And that's another thing that I thought of was just going through the images that pop in your head from like the promotional posters, right? Like some villains are in a really like strong circumstance. Some are like halfway in between. Like Hannibal Lecter's like in amazing shape, but he's also in jail. So he's healthy, but he's, in prison. So he's like half, like whatever.
Yeah.
The Mummy just starting out is in a shitty position. He's just like a rotting, like, right? Like you feel bad from the gate, right? Like he's like, that's horrible, right? He's like, so I don't know how to say her name either. Ankh es Naaman.
I remember in the Brandon Fraser film was like a Nux and a Moon. But I know it's not like Moon, like Moon. So I don't know.
All right, well, we'll just call her Nuts and a Moon.
Nuts and a Moon. So yeah, he's trying to save Nuts and a Moon.
Right. Exactly.
But so but then again, like people are like trying to like, they just want to dig up some treasure and like get quick rich. So
right.
They're probably not, the nicest people to come around. So he's like, you know what? I'm gonna harvest your lungs.
Right, exactly.
So
I think that's so I mean that's all story arc, but like are there points you remember in the movie where you felt sympathetic at that moment? Like are there I can think of like obviously Carrie, like when she's standing there and like that's like the apex of the sympathy. You're that's when you feel most sympathetic. Like, is there a most sympathetic moment?
No, I think it's just for him. It's just the story, and it's same with Dracula. Like, when he comes back from the war and like he makes like that promise to God. He's like, I'm gonna, you can't stop me. I'm gonna go back. I'm gonna get the love of my life and all that stuff. No, I think it's just the story, man. I think my brain like fills in the gaps where like I'm like I could just come up with like shit where I'm like, oh, that poor guy. He just wants her back. Like,
Totally. Well, I mean, and it's from that era of filmmaking, right? I mean, it's not accidental, right? Like Dracula, Wolfman, Mummy, like none of them were completely Frankenstein. They were all sympathetic.
Yeah.
It was,
and that's what I didn't want the whole list to be universal because like the Invisible
Right.
Man, too, like.
He's probably the least sympathetic, though, right?
Nah, but like
because he's legitimately nuts from within.
But he went like beyond the wall nuts. Like after he couldn't figure out how to come back.
Yeah,
He's got my favorite like monologue out of everyone, but like that's
he's
I don't know. I don't know. I didn't want my whole list to be universal.
See,
monsters.
but here's the thing. So this is interesting to me. Is I think a lot of times, what's happening to a horror movie, any character, honestly, what's happening to a character that's bad is also indicative of something inside of them that might be bad or spoiled or off.
Yeah.
Right. So like it's a metaphor for something bad that's happening to them, kind of already. Like Dracula, it of that crop of horror movie villains, like it was conspicuous that they were all going it alone. Invisible Man was going it alone. Frankenstein monster was going it alone. Dracula had a slave, right? Like he had Renfield, right? So he controlled things, and that's because the backstory of him is someone who controls things, right? But their kingdom shrunk to like almost zero, right? But they want to control things, and wanting to control people and be in a situation where you're controlling people is not necessarily a great motivation, right? That makes me feel sympathetic towards you. If that's like you were trying to achieve, like harvesting slaves, I'm not going to be like super sympathetic.
You poor thing.
And right, exactly. And that's the thing is like I'm wondering if like the metaphor of the mummy rotting, like I don't think it really, his character was really noble, so I don't think it really impacted him. I think it took a lot of the other villains I was considering out because I was thinking to myself, the reason the Invisible Man is acting that way, the reason something bad is happening to him is he sort of brought it on himself because there's something really cross-wired inside of him.
Yeah.
I think the Mummy is such a great choice because I don't think that applies to him necessarily, right? I think he's pretty safe from that accusation. The reason I dropped him out of mine
is what I wanted to know.
is because so there's a moment in the movie where he realizes that this woman looks like she's a reincarnation of his love.
Nuts in a Moon.
Nuts in a Moon. And his plan at that point is to murder her so he can mummify her so that they can be together as mummified lovers in eternity, right?
Yeah.
And that's where like my sympathy for you slips a little bit because even if your quest is really strong, like I'm totally behind it. Like if you come to like my place to give me a gift, and on the way to give me a gift, you step on my dog. I'm not as excited about my gift anymore.
Unless it's
right,
because
you did
reincarnation of your dog I just stepped on.
Don't step on my reincarnated dog. Damn it. Nuts in the Moon. Get out of my plate. But right, like there I feel like, and I don't know if it's just because like the mummy character comes from a harsher time where like ancient Egyptians didn't give a shit about killing people to give, like whatever, but like I just didn't appreciate that one part of his plan. Like I was down with everything else, but like,
he was riding high until
he was right, exactly.
Until that part.
But like when your plan involves like, all right, so here, imagine him like selling this to you. Like you and I are going to live together forever. You're amazing. I love you completely. I've traveled across centuries to be with you. So we're going to be together first. So first I'm going to strangle you. Hear me out. Hear me out. And then I'm going to mummify you. Oh, hear me out. Why are you backing up? And then we're going to be together forever. And you're like, oh, you know what I mean? Like,
let me think about it. Let me call you back and see.
Right. And everything else, like I was totally down with, but I was like, I just don't know. Plus, the other thing, I guess, is I was struggling with this, and I probably overthought this part because I really like that mummy choice, but I was struggling with, so like, I developed what to me was two really interesting categories of villains.
All right.
And I actually gave a name to the one. I don't have a name for the other one. But there's the category of villain that I think of as the closed loop villain. Okay.
All right.
So, and then there's the whatever the open loop villain is, whatever. Fruit loop villain. The closed loop villain is only going to be bad insofar as they're contending with the situation they're in and not bad anymore. Okay. So
Gotcha.
Carrie White is not going to rampage through the universe killing people after the prom.
Yeah.
Right. She has a particular score to settle.
Mm-hmm.
She doesn't have any particular grudges with anyone else. She's not going anywhere else to like whatever. Right.
Yeah.
Dracula either wanted to, well, he's arguable. You'd have to find something like Hannibal Lecter's just going to go on killing forever until he dies. Right. So like, no matter what you do with Hannibal Lecter, you could go to him and say, you know what, we appreciate your intellect so much, we're making you president. Mm-hmm. Like he can't feel underappreciated anymore. But he's still going to fucking kill people and be Hannibal Lecter, right? There's nothing you can do to satisfy Hannibal Lecter. He's going to roam through the countryside, killing things until someone, puts him down, right?
Yeah.
A closed loop villain is a villain like the Mummy, where he's just on a really particular mission, right? And after that mission is not like whatever, right? And that's where it got really interesting to me because I was like, I almost can't count the closed loop villains because they're villainous, but they're only villainous in a circumstance. They're not villainous all the time.
Yeah.
Right?
But that would bring the sympathy. Because they're in that area
totally,
for a reason.
Totally.
So
right. And that's right. And that's why I probably overthought it. And I probably dropped out a lot of people that I shouldn't have. But I literally was like, it's, if you're a closed loop villain, like it's hard for me to think of you exclusively as a villain, right?
Just curious. I was thinking of famous, villains, and someone who would be in an open loop, who I don't have much sympathy for, would be Predator.
I can see that.
Just because he's like,
Totally.
I just want to make sure I'm the best. So
Right, totally.
Come bring it on.
Yeah, or like the Alien Queen.
I was going to ask you about
Right?
Alien Queen
Totally
in
open
particular.
loop villain, right? Like on its own mission, but its mission has no ending point except for like the end of everything that's not it.
Exactly. So I was thinking,
Right.
I was trying to see if like the xenomorphs or xenomorphs, if they would somehow make it on the list. But then again, it's just like, I think I sort of put them in the same catalog as like the Wolfman, where it's just like,
Right.
or when he's the wolf, like he's just doing what it does.
Totally.
So like it, so I didn't know where to put that.
But see, like, here's the thing. Like the when I was thinking about like if you think about animals for a second, we think about like Jaws, like the prototypical example. Like, Jaws is the movie forces your hand, right? Like you're not you don't have free choice inside the universe of Jaws. You can have sympathy for the shark by thinking to yourself, the shark's just doing what it does, right? But the shark is acting extremely unusual by shark-like behavior.
And it doesn't help that
Right?
every time he's on Presence,
Right? No.
like
Right,
if
you
I
can
walked
make anyone a villain with,
if I walked into your house and you're you'd be like, Nick,
and then
please
stepped
get
on
out.
my dog. I'd be like, damn, I knew you were a villain. Ah.
Get out of here.
Yeah, exactly. So like, but sometimes, like the generic version of whatever that is, like the Alien Queen is just doing what she does. She doesn't give a shit about humanity. She doesn't like whatever. She don't, So you could argue to yourself, like, you got to have some sympathy for something that's just doing what it does. It's kind of what we do. Where humans are doing what we do to the planet.
Exactly.
We
Like
don't give a shit.
how is she any different than like what we would do?
Totally right. If we had,
So it made the list like. When you start thinking about that kind of stuff, like it just gets like real philosophical. You're like, why is it that
right. Well,
we?
yeah, I didn't want to get too philosophical, but I was thinking to myself, like that was. But the problem is that there's all kinds of creatures, an infinite variety of creatures in the universe that don't go around unhinging the jaw inside their jaw to tear you. Right. Like, so it's just a little hard to be like, okay, I got tons of sympathy for you.
Or to wrap, their legs around your face and
Right. There's all kinds of sharks who just like let divers go up and pat them on the nose. Like they don't have to be Jaws, right? So I don't have my sympathy abates.
animals or creatures were always weird.
Right, totally. Or even it depends on if you with the intelligence level, like that the creature in Alien is obviously of an order of intelligence. So but I don't know, like that's the thing is like a lot of times the movie just forces your hand because it has to, because there have to be the scares and the horror.
Yeah.
Right? or the thrills or whatever, and that means that it's gonna have to act villainously like times 100.
Yeah, you have no choice
Where's your sympathy
watching
then?
it
Right.
other than be like, oh yeah, he's the bad guy.
Totally.
Clearly.
Totally.
Okay, so I'm so curious about your list because I know you probably.
Well, I gave you pretty much. I mean, you named a ton of people on my list, a ton of entities or whatever that were on my list. Like although Frankenstein is a really haunting example to me of sympathetic character, and he. It's gonna hurt me not to say his name is my number one. It's gonna hurt me because he has no backstory.
Yeah.
Zero. Like that. I mean, that is like
Pieces of it might.
right. Totally. Totally. But that's the haunting part is that he's almost unique in terms of not just horror, because like literature, filmmaking in general. Like he has no backstory. He's forced to contend with another human being's backstory as his backstory.
Yeah.
Like the guy who creates him sets him up with a backstory of frustration and failure and like whatever that there's no. It's like anti-reincarnation, right? So like, I mean, I can't even imagine a more sympathetic position to be in. Right. But again,
that would not be fun.
To get back at his creator, he kills his wife. Like, there's other ways to go about revenge. Like, so my sympathy, factor, that's the thing is,
whenever
I kept getting
someone gets killed, you're always like, man.
no, because my number one does some killing, but it's not.
Oh, you're killing me with this.
It's not. Right, exactly. But that's the thing is, Frankenstein was definitely on my list. Mummy was on my list. I was really, it was really hard pressed not to look at some people who, were so there's a really interesting example of Carol from Repulsion. Is in my top tier because she's put in a situation where she's going mad. She can't reverse it. She doesn't know what's happening to her, most likely, and she has one shot at happiness, but it's pulled out from under her. It's such a horrible situation to be in. And you have all this sympathy for it, but she was a closed loop villain. Like she might have gone off and done other villainous things. She's very similar, actually, in a weird way, to the AI from Ex Machina because you don't know what's going to happen. Like I don't know, what did you think was going to happen when the AI in Ex Machina escapes? Like what's happening next?
I don't know.
Right?
The ending frustrated the hell out of me. Like, man, he helped you get out. You're just gonna leave him there,
right?
To die. But I don't know. I don't know if she was gonna.
Is she just gonna live her life undercover?
I think she was gonna. To me, it seemed like she really just wanted to take in the world around her. Right. I don't think she was gonna be 1960s killer robot.
Right.
I think she was just more of let me, almost sort of Frankenstein, just let me try
right
out here.
I was thinking to myself, if she wanted to strike back against humanity, what better place to work than the incredibly equipped lab she just walked out of? Right. If she was going to engineer an army of robots or computer viruses, or
she would have just done it
right. Why would she leave? Right. I think she just wanted to leave. Now who knows, maybe she'll come back because I don't know, who knows how long that thing is going to sit there, but it's that's the thing is the characters the character from Repulsion, I think they just disintegrate over time and they can't continue on as villains. Right?
Yeah.
So I had to take her out. So my number one.
Can I guess?
Yes.
If
please.
I had to just take.
Yeah. Please.
I'm just gonna take a random shot.
I'm so excited.
Shot in the dark.
I gave you one huge clue.
Oh, you did.
I did.
Well then,
with the fact that the Mummy influenced it.
Fuck, if the Mummy influenced it. So it had to be. Well, I can tell you who my random shot in the dark is.
Okay.
My random shot was gonna be Seth Brundle.
Okay.
Because he just wanted to create.
I could totally see that.
Because he was gonna create something that would be completely fucking game changing.
Totally.
he's like, you know what? Fucking, I'm gonna try it on myself. And then like, unfortunately, fucking housefly comes in and
Totally.
you know,
Right.
get fucked up. So that was my random shot.
Not
So
it,
if
but-
there's someone,
But he's
and it's not Dracula.
no.
Not Dracula. Let's see. I have a feeling it's
So
not,
you feel sympathy for the mummy because of what? Remember what you said.
he wanted the love of his life.
And what happened to him?
He got buried alive. So buried alive. Who got buried alive? Fuck, who got buried alive?
It's weird that you and I are both our number ones got buried alive.
Who got
That's
buried
so-
alive? I'm gonna feel like such a fucking
That's
dweeb. When we start recording, all of a sudden my knowledge just fucking goes away.
No.
Buried alive. I don't know. All right.
So anyway, while you're thinking, let me talk about Seth Brundle real quick because he's a really interesting story. He seems like an example to me of what I was talking about, where what's happening to you is a metaphor of something that was wrong in you, and that's the only reason I couldn't put him in. So remember, because story arc plot, like what you said about his story arc is true. He just wanted to do something that was going to be game changing, and something really bad happened, and like.
Yeah.
Whatever. But part of why something bad happened is because he seems like an impatient, slightly disorganized, impulsive guy. He didn't dot his I's and cross his T's. There was a fly in the thing.
Yeah.
And he went ahead, which is very Frankensteinian, right? Like, just make it happen. Like, I'm not going to wait for parts when I sew them together where it looks like a reasonable human being. I'm just going to put this one together. Done's better than perfect.
Exactly.
Right? Like, and because that element is in there, like, he's really like, I definitely was like, he's got to be like hugely considered, but it was just because
At least top like 50.
the metaphor, no, top 10, but like or 20, but the metaphor stain of what's happening to you, you brought on yourself a little bit. Mm-hmm. And
But it was
so
an
you're
honest
going
mistake. Who knew a fly?
no, you're right. You're totally right. But like, and then, you know, the way he behaved after didn't seem that. So like, there's I can't even say the saying right, but there's an old saying about alcohol that says it just kind of enhances your personality. So like, if you're,
It doesn't change you. It just
if
makes
you're
you
a
more
dick,
of who
you're
you
10
are. Yeah.
times the dick you were, like, right. And like, the bad parts of his behavior after it happened to him kind of run parallel to his personality
Yeah,
a little bit.
I see what you're saying there.
And then they don't, but then they do, but then they don't. You know what I mean? Like, it's not like,
It's
and
not-
that's
it's not
great.
all
It's
his
complicated
choice, like-
filmmaking, and that's right. But like, there was just
Great
something, and maybe he's just so fucking gross that it's hard to be. So, I mean, I'll cop to the fact that, like, you know, that's a, you know, like, I honestly actually considered The Thing as
I don't know. I that crossed my mind too, but then I was like, I don't see where the fuck. I was like, I don't know. Like, it's just doing its thing. Funny enough.
yeah, no, exactly right. But that's the thing is, like, I was like, it's kind of, it's, I was like, don't, like, if you're gonna consider like the Alien Queen, then you gotta, like, The Thing is like,
Yeah. In terms of motivation, like,
right.
yeah.
But like, the, you know, like, to me, like, I think the most, Roger Ebert said an amazing thing once that I think it took me a lot by surprise when I read it, where they asked him who the greatest villain in cinema was.
Yeah.
And he said Hal from 2001.
Oh, okay.
And his, you know, I don't recall his reasoning exactly, except for that Hal's like in an amazing movie, and it
Is that your number one?
amazing character, and he's super creepy and like whatever. But the sympathy was like Frankenstein. You have no back history. Someone made you. You had no choice.
Yeah.
And then you were given two vastly conflicting instructions. They drive you crazy, right? Like anyone can sympathize with the fact that, like, anyone who works at a job where your boss is like, you know, make sure you do this and then also do this. You're like, wait, those two fucking things don't go together.
Yeah, like,
like
what
I
do you
can't
want
do
from
those
me?
stuff. Right, exactly. Like it drives you nuts, right?
Yeah.
So like, you know, there's a lot of sympathy to be had for a character who's put in that position, right?
Mm-hmm.
But but my number one is Samara from The Ring.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so the reason that she's my number one is she had almost no choice in what happened to her.
Uh-huh.
What happened to her was horrible, multiple times of kinds of horrible, right? Because it was not like she was going from a happy childhood to and I'm just, this is why I brought it up in the beginning about like canon. I'm not dealing with like the original or
yeah.
right, just
you're talking about
the American version of the Ray. So she's autonomous. She's an open loop villain. She's never going to stop.
Yeah.
She doesn't have a high body count, right? It's a super low body count. And not counting the horses. And she what happened to her was horrible. But there's a couple things that were going on here. Like, this is one of the reasons I asked you, can you remember a moment watching The Mummy where you felt sympathy for the mummy, right? Because here's one of the amazing things that happened to me after I watched The Ring and then thought about it, watched it again, and then thought about what I was seeing. There's almost no moment in that movie where I don't feel sympathy for her. It's spread across the entire movie.
Yeah, that's
videotape, her cursed videotape, is a montage of horrible fucking things that happened to her in code, right? The ladder is, she got put in the fucking barn, right? So the shot of the ladder is she's exiled out of the house to live with the horses, right? The ring is her being buried alive. The 7 fingers in the box are the 7 days she lived in the well, losing her fingernails trying to climb up and escape, right? Like, everything encoded in that videotape is an element of why you should be sympathetic towards this character, right? Granted, she's on like a murderous mission or whatever, but her killing Noah at the end is like reads accidental to me almost. Like, sure, she manifests, but she doesn't she just looks at him, right? And then he dies, right? So like, she did set up this tape, but I feel like the death is almost incidental. She knows that what happened to her was so horrible. She wants her story to be told.
Yeah. So she's almost just like past everything. Like, she's just like, this is how it is.
Right.
You watched it. I went through it. I'm sorry. Forgive me, but you're done.
Right. But bad things, if things that bad can happen in the world, that means that no one's immune from it. Right.
Yeah.
Like, so the suffering has to spread. It can't all get stored up in one person. Right. And
she's the best of both worlds, though. Like, not only do you feel bad for her, but like, just everything leading up to her. Like, could you imagine if like someone just walked up to you random on the street and like, hey George, what's up? You got 7 days. Right. For those 7 fucking days, what do you do? What do you do? You're like, it's gonna end. It's like, what?
Right.
How do you do it? Like, how do you manage that life? So like, I think she's the best of both worlds, of like, 1, scaring the absolute shit out of you,
right,
and then 2, feeling bad for her, because like, but like, then again, if you're one of the people who watch the tape, you're not sitting there going, oh, that poor girl, she went through all that. You're like, fuck.
Right, totally. But see, one of the things is, and I just realized this is hilarious because like, I categorized her as open loop villain and her symbol's a closed loop. Great, George. But the thing is that like, I was really intrigued by the fact that like, one of the things that I hope age brings you is wisdom, right? Like, that's the whole purpose of like believing in something like heaven. Like, you get there and then like the petty things about like getting annoyed about being in traffic go away. Like, you understand things at a higher level, right? Like the Mummy and a lot of these characters that I was considering, they're adults.
Yeah.
And so in some cases they've lived just gargantuan stretches of time, right?
Yeah.
And instead of becoming wiser, they just stayed the same murderous adolescent like that they were at whatever point they were.
True.
And they had time to think about it. And they, like, if someone did something like that to someone at the age that it happened to her, you would just go insane.
Yeah.
You would just go.
You haven't had time to.
You haven't had time, and you're just going to be forever insane because you don't have a chance to mature and like whatever. So. Like, to me, being put in that position, not having the ability to mentally, emotionally recover from it, and also just, I guess, the fact that her main mission is to get her story to propagate. Like the murders, I don't know, because that's weird. It's like, I was thinking
I can see where like when you add tally in like the body count, you're like, does that really affect the list? I don't think it does, though. Like, no. I think like, again, sort of like in the the Stephen King realm, like she was put in a situation she didn't want to be in,
Right.
and now you have to deal with it because, like, I don't know, because as like society as a whole fucked her over.
Totally.
Someone in her world that what they did to her was right. So
Right.
honestly, I can see her. I can see what's her name again? How do you say her name?
Samara.
Samara. I can see her looking at society as a whole, being like, "You did this to me."
Right.
So if you watch this video, you're no better than them.
Right.
Your turn.
Yeah, but see, that's the funny thing is I'm not sure she's. Well, see, so this is interesting because the society part is interesting to me because
Projecting a lot on this little girl.
I know, but I know. I'm sorry. There's a there's a visual. So there's a visual trick, and King Kong's not a villain, so I never.
I thought I had him on my screen for a few minutes. I'm
Right,
like, nah,
but he's definitely not a villain.
no.
But so but King Kong, there's an interesting visual trick that happens where it's just like in music, where like one part of the song is better because of the notes 30 that came before 30 seconds before. Like if you just started the song halfway through and played it, it's not as good as if you just have the whole experience, right? So like one of the reasons you feel sad for King Kong, besides not just his story arc but visually, is they do a great job of framing him. I'm talking about the original. They do a great job of framing him in his habitat where he's the king, right? So every shot you see him in New York is jarring. Like he should not be there.
Yeah.
And he doesn't look like he belongs there, right? So now you feel bad for him because he looks everything's angles and edges, and it's not branches. It's his hands are evolved to grab branches, and everything here is like 90-degree angles and glass and like you don't belong here. You're not evolved for here, right? It's not a fair fight, right? So like that visual trick is really interesting to me, right? So like Samara has that there's a really interesting thing where so she comes from I mean, let's just call it like a really misogynistic culture in a lot of respects. And she's forced to, in the situation where her hair is totally all undone, right? Because like that's the idea, a sign of a disordered mind.
And
like,
she's
wet. And she's all right. It's right, exactly. And she's right, poor hygiene. And she never gets to show her face, right? Mm-hmm. So now you've got someone who just wants to tell their story to the world, and every time she shows her face to someone, they die. Mm-hmm. Like there's just no way for me to turn any angle of this to a part where I don't have sympathy for her.
Yeah,
right. Like
she just can't catch a break.
Right. And they did a really good job of making you sympathetic for Naomi Watts and her creepy son, like too. So like that usually works against the villain, but in this case, like. Like the only thing is I'm an animal lover and she drives a bunch of horses to suicide. So that was the only part where I was like, I don't know, like whatever. But
you're like, come on, man.
But she's a kid and they put her in the barn and she was like, in her head, she was like, they don't love me any more than they love their horses. So I'm just going to take those out of the equation.
So every action she does, you sit on it and you're like, oh, okay. You can do that.
No. I don't give her a pass.
No. You get a pass.
Yeah, no pass. I don't give her a pass. I think
never tried to crawl out of a well myself.
I think when I stack those actions and the reason behind them and where they're headed against any of the other villains that I was considering, it was just I felt like there was a way into a sympathetic feeling that was stronger than I was getting a way into a sympathetic feeling for any other villain for their motivations or circumstances. Yeah. So that was.
You know what? I'm gonna put him back higher on my list, but I think I got to put the Headless Horseman back there. He doesn't want to do that.
Why did he get buried alive?
Well, no. I was just thinking of like you not being in control of your own body. Like he's caught in like a limbo. Like because then I thought about because I love Tim Burton's Sleepy Hollow, but like I think about that when he sees like the two little girls. He gives him like the little hush, and he's like, he could have just killed those girls right there, moved on. So he's obvious. I mean, he was a Hessian who weren't
right.
I don't know. I think being put into a position that you don't want to be in, which he clearly is in.
Totally.
I would put him. I still think the Mummy though.
I have sympathy for anyone who doesn't have a head.
Exactly. So who's your number two? Just curious. If you had to pick.
The Mummy was really. I feel like I would be. I feel like I'd be torn between. I really like The Mummy as a choice, and
I think Frankenstein like almost gets the.
yeah. I mean, except for honestly, he like this is where I'm not allowed to bring in the book, because if I brought in the book, it would be a slam dunk. But just the movie, because in the book, like he's really articulate. Like unlike the movie versions, he literally is like. I mean, he's like the prize debate speaker. Like, and then they made him in the movie. They made him like grunt. So like in the movie, like he does. That's the thing, though. That's like I said, is like Samara or the Mummy they're killing people. She's trying to get her story told. The Mummy's trying to like love. The Frankenstein is literally just trying to settle a score.
Yeah,
and I just find that a little less sympathetic than
that's true.
Than the other ones. His mission, the position he was put in, is worse.
Yeah,
but like. There's tons of people that I've met who have had just really bad hands dealt to them in life. Right? And some of them have responded in such an amazingly noble, dignified way.
Yeah.
That I don't feel like it necessarily is, but that's like a deeper discussion. I don't know. I feel like
that's for the next episode.
I feel like the Mummy is my number 2, just because he was literally like my. And remember, he met all my criteria. Like it was presented amazingly by an amazing actor who clearly had a sympathetic read on their own character as they acted it. And they were put in a position not really of their choosing unfairly, like Samara. Right?
And by the time you come back to life, you're like, I don't care.
Right.
I'm gonna do what I need to do. I've waited this long.
But it's really weird that out of like the literally infinite list of villains, you and I both picked ones that were buried alive. That's super.
I love that. All right, so Samara and the Mummy, those are the ones. Everyone else is in between. Okay, well, that was the first episode. That was the first episode of Hollow Weekly. Hollow Weekly. I like that. I like that one. Well, let's see. We'll go with that one. So, yeah. Okay, Samara and the Mummy. There you have it. So,
tell us yours.
Let us know what you think. If you agree or disagree, and let us know who you think the most sympathetic villain and the least sympathetic villain. While you're at it, why not? It's a horror discussion if we're going for hours. So, all right. Well, till next time.
See you later.
See you later.